Children, in my previous video, I had told you about the different devices or tools used in a poem, and now we will read the poem with the explanation along with its difficult words, and also try to find out the different devices which I had spoken before. So now let's proceed. Children, can you imagine what your city would look like if you saw it from 10,000 feet above the ground? Neatly planned and perfect in proportion like a geometric design. It would strike you as something very different from what it actually is while you are in the thick of it. Here is a poet's description of just such a view of the city and some questions that come to his mind. Children, before we start the poem, let's look at the brief description about the poem, what is given in the poem. So take a look. Means in this poem we are going to read about when the poet flew over the city in a jet plane. He found the city spread in a disorderly manner, but he knew it was unavoidable. From the height of 10,000 feet, he well understood why the valleys are populated, the land and the water attract people. It was the logic of geography. From a height of 6 miles, he noticed that the earth was round and had more of sea than land. But the poet did not understand why people hated and killed one another and divided the land into separated units. Children, when I am explaining the poem, you have to observe the pronunciation of the difficult words, their meaning, and focus on the explanation. Let's begin. When the jet sprang into the sky, it was clear why the city had developed the way it had. Seeing it scale 6 inches to the mile, there seemed an inevitability about what on ground had looked haphazard, unplanned and without style, when the jet sprang into the sky. So in this stanza we have noticed the two difficult words, inevitability. So look at the pronunciation of this, inevitability, and haphazard. This is haphazard, and the meaning it is already given in your book. Inevitability means that cannot be avoided, and haphazard means without plan or order. In these lines, the poet shares his perspective of the city from the height. Perspective, you know the meaning of perspective? It means your opinion. Okay, what do you think about some particular thing? So that is known as perspective of the city from the height. When the plane took off from the ground and reached to a significant height. Significant height means a particular height. The poet saw the miniature of the city. Children, do you know the meaning of miniature? In 6th standard, you might have learned the definition of globe. That what is globe? Globe is the miniature of the earth. So by this you can correlate the meaning of miniature here. The city looked very small. That is, a mile of area was reduced to 6 inches on the scale. The poet realized that the cities are unplanned and they looked without any plan or order. Children, now come to the literary devices which I had given in previous PDF and video. So let's correlate here. As you have seen, this poem is written in 3 stanzas and every stanza is having 8 lines. So 8-line stanza poem is called octave. Okay, and the second thing is, did you notice any resemble in among the lines? The last word of the line sounds with other in any of the line? No, because you can see the first line is sky, another second one is city, third is had, fourth is mile, fifth is inevitability, sixth is haphazard, seventh is style, and eighth is sky. So there is no correlation between among the lines. So this poem is written in free verse. This is called free verse. Now side by side, let me explain you the extract based question also. So you have seen in stanza, the first question can be like this: how had the city developed? So the city had developed without any proper planning or order. It has no uniformity. Uniformity means similarity or any logic for its random shape. Which line suggests that the city is not in order? So this answer you have to find yourself from the poem. And third one is, from what height is the poet looking at the city? How do you know? The poet is looking at the city from a low height. The jet has just taken off and it's above the city. The map measurement from the height is 6 inches to a mile. Then next question is, what is the effect of refrain? Repetition of two lines in the stanza. By repeating the first line at the end of the stanza creates an effect. When we read the same line at the starting, at the ending, we are reminded of the height of the jet. The most striking theme is the height at which the earth is looked at. Thus, by repeating the height of the jet, we are able to imagine the movement of the jet and the size of the earth at various levels. Yeah, so it means only to emphasize it. Then what inevitability does the poet figure out about the haphazardness of the city's development? Why is it inevitable? The poet figures out the inevitability of the way the city developed. Urbanization. Do you know the meaning of urbanization? Means city life. Cities are called urban areas. So urbanization forced men to build more and more buildings, during which the plan and design of the city got lost. And it is inevitable because of the force such as overpopulation, means greed, shortage of space, etc. The next question comes, what do we see when we look at the earth from a low height? From a low height, we can see the cities and they are in disorder, and of the development of the cities and towns. It is only from the height we are able to see the disorder that human beings have us to this beautiful earth. When the jet reached 10,000 feet, it was clear why the country has cities where the rivers ran and why the valleys were populated. The logic of geography, that land and water attracted man, was clearly delineated when the jet reached 10,000 feet. Here, as the plane reached the height of 6 miles, it was easy to understand that the earth was round. But now, soon the plane reached the height of 10,000 feet, and now it was easy for the poet to understand the logic behind the designs of geographical and territorial spaces. He understood that water and land were inseparable components for the existence of human beings on the earth. Therefore, the man settled cities on the river banks, and areas near rivers were thickly populated. The poet realized the fact that water attracted man for settlement. Let's see the extract based question also. So, name the poet of the poem from which these lines have been extracted. It is Julfikar Ghosh. What attracted the man? That is land and water. The word delineated means, what does it mean? It means clearly shown. How much height did the jet attain? The jet attained a height of 10,000 feet according to this stanza. What became clear as the jet attained that height? As the jet attained that height, it became clear why cities had developed near the flowing rivers. What became obvious on seeing the city from that height? Seeing the city from that height, it became obvious that land and water were essentials. Now this is the third and the last stanza of the poem. Let's read out. When the jet rose 6 miles high, it was clear the earth was round and that it had more sea than land. But it was difficult to understand that the men on the earth found cause to hate each other to build wall across cities and to kill. From that height it was not clear why. By Zulfikar Ghosh. In this stanza, as the plane reached the height of 6 miles, it was easy to understand that the earth was round and there was more water than land on the earth. But the poet was perplexed to think why man hated and killed one another. The poet failed to understand the reason behind building high walls and having ill will for others. Let's see extract wise questions. So, what was the height that the jet attained? In this stanza, it is 6 miles. What does the poet learn about the earth? The poet learned that the earth was round. Who posed a threat to the poet's understanding of the logic of geography? It is only man. What, according to the poet, was beyond the logic of geography? According to the poet, the reason why man hated and killed each other was beyond the logic of geography. State one thing that became clear and one thing that remained unclear to the poet. It becomes clear to the poet that the earth was round. It, however, remained unclear why men were full of negative feelings like hatred and animosity. Make a list of the rhyming words from the above mentioned stanza. They are round, found land, understand. So, this is all about in this stanza. So, if we sum up the poem, we can say the poet flew over the city in a jet plane and he found the city spread in a disorderly manner, but he knew it was unavoidable. From the height of 10,000 feet, he well understood why the valleys were populated. The land and the water attract people. It was the logic of geography. From a height of 6 miles, he noticed that the earth was round and had more of sea than land. As you know, the 71% is the water and 29% is the land area. So, but the poet did not understand why people hated and killed one another. And nowadays you must be hearing the Indo-China disputes. So, and divided the land into separate units. So, you also think about this. Children, before concluding this poem, once again let me tell you about the literary devices which I had told you how to use in the poem. So, take a look. So, first of all, I had told you this poem is written in 3 stanzas and each stanza is having 8 lines. So, this is called octave. Okay, and second thing, I told you this poem is written in free verse because, do you know the meaning of verse? Verse means the line of the poem. Each line, each single line is called verse. There is no rhyming scheme among the lines, so that is why it is called free verse. And next thing is the devices which are used, examples are imagery and alliteration. So, wall symbolizes borders and city symbolizes countries. So, here it is imagery is used and alliteration device is also used here. Alliteration is the repetition of consonant sound in a line, that is sprang into the sky. So, SS is the repeated consonant and scaled 6 inches. So, again SS is the repeated. Why the valley were, etc. So, W is repeated here. So, these are the literary devices which are used in the poem. So, in this way, whenever you are going to read the poem, every time you correlate the literary devices which I had given you that particular poem. So, this is all about in this poem. Thank you. See you again.